As the top engineer at the silo, adaptability was paramount. What had once been a high-pressure floor scrubber was now modified to force outside air into a delivery tube, creating a makeshift oxygen supply. She then modified a pair of welding goggles and strapped them on, preparing to descend into the 500-meter deep underwater world with this rudimentary equipment. As the hinges creaked into motion, she gripped the cable tightly and descended step by step into the water. Juliet stepped on an iron block to accelerate her descent. Though she deeply resisted this dive, she had no choice. Soro had taken her fire suit while she was unconscious. The basement was severely flooded. If not drained promptly, Soro's cellar would be completely submerged within 8 months. That was why he had coerced Juliet into handling the water. The water was pitch black. The flashlight illuminated only a limited area. By the faint glow, she still saw utter chaos. It felt both familiar and utterly foreign. Though all silos were built to identical standards, time had carved distinct characters into each. Juliet silently vowed her own silo would never suffer such neglect. Thankfully, everything was proceeding smoothly now. Oxygen supply stable, no physical discomfort. Just as she began to relax, the rope suddenly halted mid-air. She checked her position, confirmed it was level 8, and flipped into the passageway before securing the rope to the railing. As the engineer for Silo 17, Juliet knew the pump's location well, yet the space lay in utter ruin, overgrown with aquatic plants. Combined with the dim lighting, the search proved arduous. For now, she could only rely on instinct to feel her way forward. Pushing open a rotting iron door, she squinted in the faint light to identify the room. This was indeed the pump room she sought. She then crawled toward the electrical distribution chamber, only to find the gate locked. But Juliet had anticipated this. Previously, her lack of preparation had forced her to pry open a cabinet door bare-handed, leaving her hands sore for 2 days. This time, she deliberately brought a secret weapon, a crowbar 2 fingers wide. She wedged it into the door's crack, her left hand pulling back while her right pushed forward. With all her strength applied in opposite directions, the gate swung open effortlessly. After confirming the latch's orientation, she carefully secured it. For safety, the system remained de-energized. Following the plan agreed upon with Soro, she tugged the rope on the railing. The moment the bell above chimed, Soro immediately initiated the power supply sequence. As the red light illuminated, she returned to the pump room and pressed the switch with both hands. Then, Juliet glanced back. The drainage pump began expelling bubbles. The dewatering process seemed to be proceeding normally. With that, Juliet's task was successfully completed. However, just as she prepared to return, an unexpected incident occurred. The moment she untied the hemp rope, the iron block plummeted rapidly toward the abyss. Shocked, she instinctively looked up. The connecting rope appeared to have snapped, but unfortunately, the water was too dark for Juliet to confirm. Almost simultaneously, Juliet felt suffocation. At first, she thought the oxygen supply had been blocked. She frantically pounded the equipment, only to have cold water surge back through the oxygen tube the next second. Clearly, the oxygen line had also malfunctioned. Realizing the danger, she immediately shed her boots, shed her weight-bearing gear, grabbed the oxygen tube, and frantically swam upward. At that moment, Juliet had only one thought. Soro had betrayed her. This accident was no coincidence. Someone deliberately intended to kill her. Though Juliet didn't know the reason, her survival instinct left no room for deliberation. By the time she saw the surface, her oxygen was nearly depleted. She decisively jettisoned the hose and scrambled upward with all her might. At the last moment, she broke the surface, clutching a floating empty barrel as she gasped for the long-missed air. Once she regained her composure, anger replaced relief. She shouted Soro's name and sprinted up the stairs. But the moment she stepped onto the platform, something felt off. The bridge was deserted. Soro was nowhere to be found. Scanning her surroundings, she saw scattered oxygen equipment and an axe lying on the bridge. Not Soro's. More unsettlingly, when she turned to look at the stairs, she spotted dark red splatters, clearly blood. These stains trailed upward in a broken trail. Not far away lay a blood-stained arrow. She realized Soro was injured. Could there be someone else in the silo? A woman was leisurely bathing in the river. At that moment, 3 rhinos suddenly came to the shore. After hearing a man's shouts, she quickly hid with her horse behind a rock. Then a group of hunters came charging out on horseback. It turned out they were chasing the 3 rhinos from earlier. Anna was too scared to make any sound. An hour later, the surroundings finally quieted down. She returned to the forest again. Anna discovered the rhinos had been brutally killed, and their precious horns had been taken by the hunters. This left Anna, who had grown up in the forest, devastated with grief. She lay helplessly on the rhino corpses and began to pray.
And grant me the power to find those who did this.
Then Anna followed the blood trail and embarked on a journey to find the killers. 7 days later, she finally found the hunters' camp. Anna then quietly infiltrated it. She discovered the hunters were processing the rhino horns, and some were capturing a large crab. The hunters' actions filled Anna with disgust. Just as she was about to rush out and teach them a lesson, there was suddenly a commotion not far away. It turned out the hunter's boss Mark had driven here. Everyone immediately knelt down to greet him. Since Mark loved watching combat matches between humans and beasts, he had his subordinates capture various wild animals and then implanted their genes into human bodies. This man who looked like a lion was Mark's favorite modified human. Anna couldn't bear to see the beasts become Mark's entertainment tools, so she quietly sneaked into the prison while the hunters were sleeping. However, just as Anna was about to rescue the beasts, a sword was placed at her neck.
You dare to take what Dragon owns?
No one can own the creatures of the Force.
An intense battle instantly erupted. Although her opponent looked quite frail, she was actually also a modified human. Anna had no advantage against her at all. Their fight quickly drew the attention of others. Everyone wanted to see who would win. At this critical moment, Anna's warhorse suddenly charged into the camp to rescue her, but the next second...
Stay down.
The man reached his hand into the murky nuclear wastewater. A second later, he screamed in pain. His friends rushed over and pulled him out, panic on their faces. Just as they were about to ask what happened, the man burst out laughing, holding up a leaf. It was just a prank. The group laughed and started to move on. But Yuri suddenly noticed something else. Everyone thought he was joking again. But this time, he looked serious. He pulled out his knife and carefully brushed aside the leaves. Lying underneath was a strange, dead fish. Its body was twisted and deformed in ways no one could explain. Curious, one of them reached out to touch it. That sent a rush of excitement through the group. They packed up and got ready to move to the next spot, completely unaware that in the water behind them, more of those bizarre fish were starting to gather. They had broken into the Chernobyl exclusion zone, seeking a thrill among the ruins of nuclear contamination. For safety, Yuri carried a Geiger counter to measure the radiation levels around them, but none of them realized something far more dangerous was already drawing near. When they reached an old building, they found a dead dog lying by the door. No one suggested turning back. Yuri kicked the door open, and they stepped inside, moving past the carcass. They climbed the stairs, taking photos and exploring, while Yuri scouted the area. In a corner, he found a pile of freshly burned charcoal. Someone had been there recently. He didn't tell the others, just kicked it aside, and called out that it was time to leave. They had to make it back to the car before dark. Just as John moved forward, Yuri froze. He motioned for everyone to stop. There was a sound, something heavy moving nearby. They crept forward carefully, following Yuri's lead. Then, out of nowhere, a massive bear lunged from the next room. It didn't attack. It looked terrified, as if it was running from something. The group bolted from the building, their hearts pounding, adrenaline surging. Outside, they laughed nervously, still buzzing from the scare. Yuri, who'd been a tour guide for 6 years, said it was the first time he'd ever seen a bear here. They all laughed again as he told them to get in the car. But when he turned the key, nothing. The engine wouldn't start. Out of gas? Impossible, he had filled it up earlier. The engine looked fine. So Yuri opened the hood. The wires had been chewed through. John frowned. What kind of animal does that? You sure we're the only ones out here? Yuri's face grew tense. He tried calling for help on the radio, but there was no response. Night fell quickly. Tension filled the car. They began blaming each other for the trip. Then, a sound outside. Everyone froze. It sounded like a baby crying. Yuri grabbed his gun and told them to stay put. He stepped out, walking slowly toward the sound. Paul, worried, followed him. The others waited anxiously in the car. A few minutes later, gunshots echoed through the dark. John jumped out and ran toward the noise. After a tense wait, two figures finally emerged. They'd been attacked by something unknown.
Where's Yuri? Where's Yuri? Chris.
They got him! They fucking got him!
The group barely made it through the night. By morning, Paul's leg was badly injured. They needed help fast. John and the others decided to search for tools to fix the car, while trying to reach Yuri on the radio. Following the static, they traced the sound, and found his walkie-talkie inside a nearby building. They followed a trail of blood through the hallway, until they found him. Yuri was dead. Then came another noise. The front door creaked open. During a routine inspection by customs officers, they were suddenly taken aback by what was inside the vehicle. Jack hurriedly told his men to close the door, and ordered the checkpoint to be opened. Everyone was extremely nervous. Only the man in the vehicle was asleep. At that moment, Jack knew they had gotten themselves into trouble with something terrifying, while the anti-smuggling officer standing beside him kept asking Jack why he was letting them go. Jack hurriedly told him, anyone who sees the seal on that vehicle gets eliminated immediately, even before they have a chance to say the name of this place. Meanwhile, when the sheriff heard that the vehicle with the seal had been stopped, he immediately told the people at the checkpoint not to hold it up. Jack had heard since he was a child about places ruled by tribes that had massive armies and advanced weapons. He never thought all of that was actually true. Thinking about having stopped the truck that day, Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. The customs officers could only watch as the vehicle drove away. Only the bearded man said, "No one dares to stop these people." But the tribe had been searching for a girl. The fat man hurriedly told the man that the girl was near the coal mine on the Myanmar border. So they immediately took some men with them to go look for her. Little did they know that at that moment, Anna was bringing food to her boyfriend. But just then, the bearded man suddenly appeared at the construction site. He grabbed Anna, held her, and took a photo. Suddenly, Anna was dragged away by the bearded man. When Jack was about to step forward, he stopped in his tracks. At that moment, an old man suddenly put down what he was holding. He saw Anna being forcibly dragged away, yet no one at the construction site stepped forward to help. All they saw was the bearded man telling his men to hold everyone back. Anna felt a sense of despair, especially when she saw that Jack had no intention of coming to her rescue. Just as the bearded man thought no one would stop him, Anna's mother suddenly appeared. While she was still wondering where these people were taking Anna, she didn't expect everyone to step back in fear. Only Jack silently stubbed out his cigarette butt, as the woman begged them to save her daughter. The old man told her that only she could save Anna. When she thought no one could help her, the woman suddenly remembered Jack behind her. Just as the bearded man, annoyed that she was being too noisy, told his men to deal with her, a bad premonition came over them in an instant. But at that moment, Jack didn't dare to move an inch. As they watched Anna being put into the vehicle, the woman finally remembered that it was she who had forbidden Jack from fighting with others. But at that moment, she decided to remove all the restrictions placed on Jack. The girl saw something terrifying on the news. She suspected her father might actually be a deranged serial killer, because the girl on the news was wearing a necklace that was exactly the same as hers, and that necklace was a birthday gift from her father not long ago. In disbelief, she quickly took it off to compare, but to her shock, even the scratches on it were exactly the same as the one on the news. Daisy felt really scared, so she immediately looked up recent news about missing girls, but the results shocked her. 13 people in town had been murdered recently, and what was even scarier was that all of the victims looked a lot like her dead mother. This made Daisy very confused. Could all of this just be a coincidence? Thinking about how her father had been coming home late recently, Daisy felt more and more uneasy. To find out if her father was really a killer, she sneaked into his room and unexpectedly found a lot of anesthetics in the drawer, as well as a strange sketchbook. But when she opened it, it was full of methods of committing crimes. Before Daisy could react, she heard the sound of a car outside. It was her father coming home from work. Seeing this, Daisy hurriedly put the sketchbook back and secretly took a bottle of anesthetics, then quickly escaped from his room. But when she got back to her room, she suddenly remembered the TV downstairs was still on, so she quickly ran downstairs and turned it off right before her father walked in. But then Daisy noticed her father was wearing leather gloves. Feeling suspicious, she asked why, but her father quickly said it was because it was cold. Seeing this, Daisy didn't say anything else. Then they sat on the couch to watch TV, but Daisy wasn't in the mood. Her head was full of thoughts about her father killing people, and just then, seeing Daisy cut her hand, her father quickly helped her clean the wound gently. At that moment, Daisy couldn't believe such a gentle man could hurt anyone. She thought maybe she was being too sensitive. But even late at night, Daisy still couldn't sleep. Then she heard noises from the living room. It was her father opening the attic stairs. Hearing the crackling sounds above, it was clear he was doing something shady up there. The next morning, Daisy tested her father with the necklace. She asked if he bought it secondhand to save money, because it had many small flaws. Her father said he didn't check carefully when buying it.
So then maybe you can exchange it for a new one.
But he refused her, saying the store only had that one left. After he left for work, Daisy took a flashlight and climbed up to the attic. But to her surprise, it was full of old scattered stuff. While she was searching, she accidentally broke the ceiling. Daisy quickly got back up and saw it was her own room below. Luckily, that meant she wouldn't be found by her father. And just then she found a box. When she opened it, it was full of women's jewelry, one she had never seen before, and they weren't her mother's. She picked up one to look and saw dried blood on the ring. She instantly realized her father was a serial killer. Terrified, Daisy hurried to pack her bags. She wanted to get away from this murderer, but the moment she stepped outside, she closed her eyes and walked slowly, feeling her way like a blind person. It turned out Daisy had agoraphobia. Whenever she was in open public places, she would feel intense fear and anxiety. She tried to push herself through it, but before she got far, she heard the sound of a motorcycle. Daisy got dizzy and panicked. Fear overwhelmed her, and she ran back inside. Since she couldn't escape, she decided to confront her father. When he saw the jewelry, he froze.
What is this, Dad?
He said it was all her mother's. Daisy showed him the bloody ring and asked what the blood was, but he said it was paint. Daisy confronted him. She pulled out the necklace and asked if he killed someone, and showed the photo from the news. Her father got furious.
But that doesn't explain.
You're turning into her. Do you know that? I get paranoid until the end.
Did you kill her?
No, kid.
Oh my God, did you kill Mom?
To fit into human society, the zombie made a complete plan to become human. In the morning, he threw rocks at bird nests to improve his body control. At noon, he used chopsticks to pick up beans, making his fingers more flexible. He also bit a tree branch and practiced tongue twisters to learn how to speak again. At night, he walked on a treadmill to get rid of his slow zombie walk. Even at a speed of 3.5, he often fell. But he did not give up. He trained from spring all the way to winter. In the end, he beat the treadmill. Now he could run fast, use chopsticks well, and even speak fluently. He could even rap. One day, while looking for food in the mountains, he witnessed a murder. After the killer left, he searched the victim's body and found a key and an ID. The victim was a private detective. So the zombie decided to take the man's identity and live among humans. He used the address on the business card and found the detective agency. But when he opened the door, he saw trash everywhere. He opened the fridge and saw bread and beer. He ate them right away. But the next second, he threw up. Zombies could not eat processed food, they could only eat meat. But he could not go around eating people. So he decided to get a job and earn money to buy meat. Soon, he got his first case. A client asked him to find a missing dog. The zombie was thrilled. He replied right away, people cost 1,000, animals cost 500. To his surprise, the client agreed at once. By detective standards, 500 meant 5 million. That was enough to buy a lot of meat. But he still could not go outside looking like a zombie. Just then, a makeup ad popped up on the computer. He ordered some right away. He applied foundation to his face, neck, and every spot with zombie skin. Once he finished, he looked like a handsome man. He put on a trench coat and went to meet the client in style. But when he arrived, he found out the client was just a little boy. The 500 reward was only 501, about $1. That was not even enough to pay for his foundation. At that moment, the boy's aunt passed by. She saw a man in black standing next to a child and thought he was a kidnapper. She tried to drag him to the police station. But how could a zombie dare go there? He panicked and ran away. The woman chased after him. She grabbed the delivery man's helmet and threw it like a shot put. It hit the man and knocked him out. She ran over in a panic. When she touched his skin, it was cold. There was no heartbeat either. She thought she had killed him. An ambulance arrived quickly, but no matter how the doctors tried, the heart monitor stayed flat. They had no choice but to declare him dead. The woman was terrified. But just then, the zombie suddenly sat up. A strange old woman walked into the hair salon. All the staff quickly moved out of her way. Only one woman didn't manage to avoid her in time. She was chosen to serve the old lady. She had no idea that this encounter would completely change her life. The old woman's hair was filthy and tangled. Flies even buzzed around it. The stench was almost suffocating, but the woman endured it politely. She asked the old lady what kind of hairstyle she wanted. At that moment, the light above flickered strangely a few times. The old woman's hair was so knotted it couldn't be washed properly. The water turned pitch black. Like ink, she went through half a bottle of shampoo. The hair was as messy as a homeless person's, yet the old woman's nails were perfectly manicured. She wore an expensive pair of red high heels. The woman found it all very strange. Even after washing, the hair still couldn't be combed. She had no choice but to cut off most of it. Finally, she managed to style it into something decent.
이 정도 괜찮으세요? 조금만.
But the old woman had endless demands. She had to follow every instruction, working all day from morning to night.
어떠세요? 마음에 드세요?
오른쪽 좀 자세히 짧게.
Facing a client everyone else avoided, she remained patient and professional. Her colleagues secretly gave her thumbs up from the sidelines. After hours of effort, the old woman was finally satisfied. At checkout, the old lady smiled and said she was very kind. She handed over something, claiming it was a gift. Then she muttered a few words the woman didn't understand, and walked away. The woman froze. Looking down, she realized the money was just a piece of paper. She immediately understood she'd been tricked. Fuming, she ran to the door. But the old woman had already vanished. Then she noticed a stock name written on the paper. Skeptical, she bought it. She ended up losing money again, grinding her teeth in frustration. She was about to throw the paper away. Then she realized it wasn't a stock, but a lottery ticket. Unexpectedly, the ticket hit the jackpot. But that day, so many people won that the prize was split into tiny portions.
애매한 행운이지.
She took the winnings and, together with two colleagues, started a business. They opened a new hair salon. When hiring staff, all three partners had to agree, but two of them were ex-lovers and constantly clashed. As a result, no one passed the interview. Finally, they changed the rules so that the third partner could decide. At that moment, a woman with her hair covering her eyes walked in. She stuttered as she spoke and kept biting her fingers. She had social anxiety and hesitated at the door before finally entering. But since the salon required interaction with clients, all three partners initially thought she wasn't suitable. Unexpectedly, this anxious girl was a fan of the male partner. She praised him enthusiastically and even ran over for his autograph. The male partner couldn't help smiling at her compliments. He immediately circled her name on the form. The two female partners looked annoyed. One of them didn't hesitate to put an X, but the ex-girlfriend surprisingly circled it as well. In the end, the socially anxious girl was hired. She lowered her head and gave a strange smile.
The prison had one strict rule. All food sent by family members is cut into small pieces by the guards. Even soap is shaved down to ensure there are no hidden dangerous items. The purpose of all this is to prevent sharp objects from being concealed in food or other items, which could be used by inmates to escape. After all, this cell holds an expert in prison breaks. Mike first used a spoon to pry open the baseboard and take out a hidden small mirror. He then smashed it with the spoon, picked out a long, thin fragment, and wrapped the other pieces in paper. Just as he was about to flush the fragment down the toilet, a guard suddenly barged in for an inspection. Without hesitation, Mike swallowed the fragment. Every prisoner had to undergo a body search and stand by the door. After the search, the guard began a thorough inspection of the cell. Worried that the glass shards would be discovered, Mike took the opportunity to flush the toilet, sending the fragments down the drain. The guard, hearing the toilet, was furious, but Mike calmly claimed he had accidentally bumped it. The guard obviously didn't believe him and searched every nook and cranny, but ultimately found nothing suspicious. Once the guard left, Mike took out a thin string and a toothbrush. He securely tied the mirror fragment to the toothbrush and extended it out of the cell's peephole to observe the guard's movements in the block. By rotating the toothbrush, he could monitor the entire corridor without any blind spots. This makeshift periscope was crucial for their upcoming escape plan. One inmate was responsible for watching the door, while Mike skillfully dismantled the bed leg. They moved the cardboard boxes in the corner and used a spoon to pry open the floorboards underneath. Then they wrapped the bed leg in a handkerchief and began chiseling the cement below. To cover the loud noise, they had bribed the inmate next door to break his toilet so that the sound of repairing it would mask their chiseling. At this point, Mike's accomplice noticed two guards approaching, but Mike didn't slow down at all. As he said, it was too late to hide now. They had to go all in. The two guards walked by without stopping. After all, they had just been thoroughly searched, so this was their safest moment. After repeated efforts from the group and over an hour of work, they finally broke through the floor. Mike then lit a piece of paper and dropped it into the hole. With wind blowing in, this indicated the hole was connected to something, but to where, no one knew. They then dumped all the rubble and soil into the hole and decided to investigate it that night. After finishing, they restored the floor to its original state. But how would they deal with the guards' nightly inspections? In the evening, they made two dummies out of cardboard boxes and tied the arms and thighs to strings. By pulling the strings, the boxes would mimic body movements to fool the guards during their rounds. Inspection time soon arrived. The two quickly hid in a blind spot. Success or failure hung in the balance. The guard had to confirm the head count through the peephole. A few inmates waved their arms, but one had his head covered while his body writhed from time to time. The guard didn't notice anything unusual and left after closing the peephole. It seemed their cardboard dummies and string pulling technique were coordinated well enough to trick a guard who wasn't looking closely. Next, Mike took out a spoon and unscrewed the table corner, taking out a hacksaw blade from inside. They lifted the floorboards in the corner, revealing the hole they had dug earlier that day, and the two climbed in one after the other. Their accomplice in the cell lowered a rope with a stone tied to it, then covered the floor back up, with the other end of the rope tied to another accomplice's ankle. This way, when they returned, they could signal with the rope. Below was a cellar. To escape, they had to saw through the iron bars in front of them, so he took out the hacksaw and started sawing. To avoid being discovered by patrolling guards, they would stop every 20 strokes to listen intently for any movement around them. Getting caught by the guards would completely expose the escape plan and could even cost them their lives. However, the grate was made of metal and couldn't be sawed through in a short time. Mike had no choice but to take turns working with his accomplice. After half an hour of joint effort, the grate was finally cut. They then hurriedly climbed through the window into what seemed like a basement. Originally planning to find a passage to escape, they discovered that all the exits were tightly locked with iron doors no matter where they went. Left with no other option, Mike had to put the grate back in place. Just then, he noticed a pile of discarded windows and realized the bolts could be sawed off to use as keys. Mike had just started sawing a bolt when he heard the footsteps of guards. They quickly hid. It turned out two guards on duty had quietly snuck into the basement to chat, completely unaware that two prisoners were skillfully hiding around the corner. However, the guards quickly returned, fortunately not noticing anything unusual. Once the guards left, they wasted no time. Mike immediately picked up the saw and continued working. After 30 minutes of focused cutting, the bolt was finally severed. Mike forcefully bent it, then deftly inserted it into the keyhole of the iron door. With a click, the lock was easily opened. They then lit the kerosene lamp they had brought and entered the dark, damp basement without hesitation. Although the kerosene lamp's faint light wasn't dazzling, it was enough to illuminate their path forward. They soon discovered to their delight that all the door locks here were the same. With the help of their master key, they easily found the iron door leading to the sewer. However, they hadn't anticipated that this door would have a spring lock, rendering their master key useless. The calm Mike quickly thought of a solution. He carefully lifted the iron door and used the key to prop up the lower end of the hinge. He then took out the hacksaw from his pocket and laboriously sawed through the upper end of the hinge. Following the same method, he dealt with the lower hinge, removed the master key, and pulled out the severed nails. Just like that, Mike easily removed the iron door. Seeing freedom right before their eyes, they didn't rush to leave. Instead, they took a match from the matchbox they had brought, broke it in two, and stuffed it into the gaps of the hinges. Then, using the master key, they forcefully hammered the match to perfectly merge it with the hinge. After finishing all this, Mike crawled inside and rehung the door. He had successfully removed the iron door while also cleverly disguising the scene, ensuring that even if the guards came to inspect, it would be difficult for them to notice anything abnormal. The two entered the sewer with excitement, but unfortunately, the passage was sealed with thick cement. The cement was very sturdy and ordinary tools were useless for chiseling it. However, the cement used on the nearby wall was low quality and could be scraped off with a bit of effort. Mike said it would only take a few days to dig open the passage and they could officially start tomorrow. At this point, dawn had arrived and the guards were about to conduct room inspections, but they hadn't returned yet. Their accomplice anxiously shouted into the hole. Fortunately, Mike ultimately made it back. After properly disguising the scene, he and his accomplice quickly laid back in bed, pretending to not be up yet. The guard didn't notice anything unusual. After this incident, Mike realized an important issue. They didn't have watches and couldn't keep track of time. If they had returned 10 seconds later just now, the plan might have failed. To avoid being discovered by the guards, they had to find a way to get a timer to conveniently keep track of time. Therefore, one of the accomplices pretended to see the doctor and took the opportunity to steal 2 glass bottles. Then when the guard wasn't paying attention, he grabbed some sand and put it in his pocket. Although he knew they would be searched every time they entered or left the cell, Charlie still decided to do it. Since sand couldn't be used to dig a hole and escape like an iron bar or spoon, the guard wasn't suspicious and let him return without issue. With the materials in hand, they quickly made a simple hourglass. After testing, Mike discovered that each time the hourglass emptied, it was exactly half an hour. With the help of the hourglass, everyone could roughly keep track of time. Soon after, Mike and his accomplice brought tools to the sewer. They first built a simple platform with wooden planks, then put down the hourglass. They drew a circle on the wall and began chiseling. Sure enough, the cement quality here was poor. The two quickly chiseled off a large chunk of the wall, exposing the bricks inside, which became their biggest obstacle. Mike took advantage of the break to modify the bolt into a key. Then he checked the time and saw it was already 2 a.m. Time to change shifts. He pulled the rope to wake up his accomplice. It happened to be time for the guards' rounds, and they once again fooled them with the dummies. Then Mike took the teammate changing shifts to the designated location. After telling them all the precautions, he turned to go rest. The other 2 accomplices also began their work. 3 days later, the escape tunnel was almost dug through. But just as the accomplice was busy digging, the entrance suddenly collapsed and he was instantly buried in the debris. Seeing this, Mike immediately rushed over to rescue him. However, there were heavy bricks everywhere. With his strength alone, there was no way to clear these obstacles in a short time, and his accomplice could suffocate to death. Mike was anxious and exerted all his strength to start moving the rubble. Finally, after a few minutes, he saw his accomplice's hand reach out from the debris and successfully saved a life. Just as they were about to change shifts, a guard suddenly barged in to inspect the room. Charlie hurriedly used clothes to temporarily cover the hole. It turned out the guard discovered a hacksaw missing from the utility room and suspected a prisoner had stolen it. Next, the guards conducted a thorough search. When they arrived in front of the cardboard pile, everyone's hearts were in their throats, afraid the guards would discover the hole's location. At this critical juncture, a colleague next door called out to the guard, seeming to have discovered something. The guard immediately took his subordinates and left. Only then did they finally relax. They realized they had to speed up and dig through the tunnel before the guards discovered it. Otherwise, they would be in a predicament. So they worked even harder, not wasting a single second. With the joint efforts of the two, the wall was finally broken through and the path to freedom was right before their eyes. They sped up their actions. Shortly after, the entrance opened. The first accomplice crawled out, followed closely by Sean. Following the sewer, they quickly found a ladder and eagerly climbed up. When they emerged, they were already outside the prison and had truly successfully escaped. Seeing the taxi in front of them, they couldn't wait to get in and flee this place of right and wrong. However, they understood they couldn't do this because there were still accomplices who hadn't escaped. They decided to act together. So they quickly told Mike the good news. After discussion, everyone decided to carry out the escape plan that night. But at this critical moment, a guard suddenly barged in and told Sean that the warden wanted to see him. This news wasn't pleasant, and everyone worried something unexpected would happen. The warden wanted to see Sean because there was a turn in his case. His wife had unexpectedly withdrawn the lawsuit, which meant Sean's crime could be reduced or he could even be released early. However, when Sean excitedly told his accomplices this good news, they didn't show the expected happiness and instead had solemn expressions. Obviously, the accomplices didn't believe a case would be discussed for so long. Sean must have talked about other things with the warden, but Sean's sincere demeanor made it impossible for them to doubt him. After the guard finished inspecting the room and left, everyone began preparing for tonight's escape. After saying goodbye to each other, the accomplices started to move the cardboard. But at this moment, an unexpected change suddenly occurred. As Paul was observing outside, a group of guards suddenly appeared at the door, staring at them in unison. Instantly, everyone understood. Sean had betrayed them. The accomplices rushed forward wanting to give him a beating, but were forcibly pulled away by the guards. No matter how they struggled, it was all in vain. In the end, their escape plan had completely failed. Although Sean's wife withdrew the lawsuit, he had injured someone after all and had to serve at least 5 years. If he wanted to be released early, he could only rely on the warden. This was why Sean chose to sell out his accomplices in exchange for trust. Later, Sean was transferred to a new cell. Actually, before he arrived, Mike and 3 others had always been together and had long planned their escape. However, Sean's sudden addition disrupted their plan, forcing them to temporarily halt their operation. But delaying wasn't a long-term solution. The longer they delayed, the greater the danger. In the end, the four decided to tell Sean the plan. After all, he was in the same cell as them and would find out sooner or later. But no one expected that what ultimately awaited them was Sean's ruthless betrayal. The human heart is truly difficult to fathom and guard against.
The girl was about to open the door for her mom's best friend when her brother stopped her. He noticed what she was wearing. It was their mom's favorite outfit. Realizing her disguise had been exposed, Diana's expression twisted into something strange. She frantically yanked at the car door, and the terrifying scene terrified the girl. Luckily, when their mom left, she locked the car with the safety lock. But then Diana suddenly realized something and reached into her pocket. Sure enough, she found the car keys. Excited, Diana pressed the remote, unlocking the door, ready to catch the two kids. But to her surprise, the boy used all his strength, kicking Diana to the ground, then grabbed his sister and fled from the other side. In the empty, silent underground parking lot, it was hard for them to shake Diana off. Just as Diana was about to catch up, in a moment of desperation, the boy scooped up his sister and dashed into the elevator. When they finally made it home, the boys saw the horrifying sight. Their mom had been brutally murdered, lying in the kitchen. Before he could react, there was a loud banging on the door.
The girl had just emerged from the lake when she discovered in horror that her legs were covered in blood. Before she could react, she suddenly noticed everyone screaming and running toward the shore. Their legs had also turned red, and even the lake water had been stained red. There seemed to be some terrifying creature in the water. One boy was just a second too slow and was dragged underwater by a terrible force. The police soon received an emergency call and immediately dispatched an officer to the scene. However, this officer didn't take the matter seriously. He sat leisurely in his boat and even pulled out a cold beer to enjoy. At that moment, an eel suddenly leapt up and bit his arm. Just a few minutes later, the officer was dead. When Jack and his companion arrived, they only saw the capsized boat and blood all around. Just as they were about to flip the boat over, an eel suddenly attacked Mark. Jack immediately rushed to help, but the terrifying eel had clamped down firmly on Mark's hand. Jack quickly pulled out a knife and managed to pry the eel off Mark, then received a call from his colleague. Someone had found the officer's body downstream, and it had already been brought back to the police station. The two rushed to the station, with Jack warning the medical examiner to stay away from the body. However, his warning came too late. The medical examiner, who was on the phone, noticed the body was still moving. An eel suddenly lunged at him. The examiner struggled desperately to escape, but there wasn't just one eel in the body. Countless eels poured out, and the examiner couldn't escape his fate. When the two returned to the police station, the medical examiner had already stopped breathing. The eels had burrowed into the sewers. If they made their way through the pipes into residents' homes, the consequences would be unthinkable. The two immediately informed the mayor. The mayor was startled by what he saw, but when they proposed shutting down all the water pipes, he refused without hesitation. He didn't think the eels were that dangerous and was more worried about the economic losses from cutting off the water supply. Little did he know this decision would haunt him for the rest of his life. After returning home, the mayor went to use the toilet, unaware that an eel had already made its way through the pipes into the toilet bowl. By the time he tried to flee, it was too late. Ultimately, he died in the bathroom in the most humiliating way.
A woman cuts a pill in half and drops it into her daughter's baby bottle. She scoops in several spoonfuls of expired formula and feeds it to her daughter. After the baby falls asleep, the woman rushes out to meet her lover. When her husband Jack gets home, he picks up the bottle and sees ants inside. Jack knows something is wrong. He rushes into the bedroom to check on his daughter and finds her unconscious. He races to the hospital and thankfully, the baby is okay. Jack returns home with his daughter. As he walks down the hall, he sees his wife embracing her lover, but he doesn't confront them. He hides and waits for the man to leave before heading inside. Just then, the man turns back and rushes into the house. Jack opens the door and sees everything. He closes the door, a plan forming in his mind. The next day, Jack has a neighbor drive him to the train station. He gets on the train and waves goodbye to his neighbor. Once the neighbor is gone, Jack quietly gets off. He goes to his wife's lover's house, puts on gloves, and collects some of the man's hair. He then opens a drawer and takes a dagger. His wife returns home and doesn't notice anything unusual. She sits down to do her skincare routine. She looks up and is startled by a photo her lover had taken. She climbs into bed and calls her lover to confront him, but the lights suddenly go out. Jack has shut off the phone. The woman steps out of the room and Jack appears in front of her. Jack takes the phone and calls the man. The woman tries to scream for help, but she can't make a sound. Jack hangs up the phone and kills his wife. Jack takes out the man's hair and scatters it around. He uses tweezers to pick up a blood-stained piece of clothing. He walks out, leaving the key in the door and wiping away his fingerprints. The woman's lover arrives. Jack sees him and goes to the man's home, smearing blood on the glass. After he finishes, Jack takes a taxi and leaves. The next day, the neighbor receives a message from Jack and brings something over to his house. She walks into the bedroom and discovers a horrifying scene. The police surround the house. Jack returns, pretending to be distraught. Based on the police investigation, the lover becomes the main suspect.
A scantily clad woman was tied to a wooden frame, desperately pleading with the butcher in front of her to spare her life. But he seemed not to hear her at all, and with a pair of scissors, he slit open her abdomen. The woman immediately felt excruciating pain, and soon she lost all signs of life. At this moment, Jenny had no idea that she herself was about to be pulled into this dark spiral. As a child, Jenny was often abused by her father. In her teens, she finally escaped, and only then did she get to live a normal life. Now, not only did she have a successful career, but also a lovely son. Suddenly, however, she received news that her father had died and learned that he had left her a winery. Curious, Jenny decided to go check it out. Because the journey was long, Jenny drove for hours before finally arriving. There, she met her aunt and a child, Michael, who had been adopted by her aunt and father. The lawyer explained Jenny's father's assets in detail. If Jenny decided to sell them, her aunt and Michael would be left destitute. Jenny didn't want that, but her son didn't want to live there either, so she offered to compensate them with some money. Her aunt agreed, and that evening, they all had dinner together. But soon, they all passed out. When Jenny woke up, she found herself tied up. It turned out her aunt was the butcher from earlier. She forced Jenny to sign a transfer agreement. At the crucial moment, a police officer came to investigate the disappearance of the woman from the beginning, saving Jenny and her son from being killed.
Something fucking weird just happened to me. The front door wasn't even locked. But my daughter, Faye, was outside, banging on the door. At first, I just thought she was too lazy to grab her keys. But the more I thought about it, the more something felt wrong. I carefully peeked through the peephole. The weird thing is, there was nobody outside, but I could still hear Faye's voice ringing in my ears.
Kiddo?
Dad, I said it's freezing. Please let me in.
Just as I was about to open the door, my phone suddenly buzzed. It was a text. I immediately asked where Faye was. This whole freaky situation was messing with my head, so I decided to test the voice outside one more time.
What's wrong?
You never called me dad before, even after I married your mom.
What are you talking about, Phil? You're just tired. You misheard me.
With Faye rushing me, I finally decided to open the door. But just to be safe, I checked the peephole one last time. Same result, just the voice, no one there. I got down low and peeked through the mail slot. Nobody at the door. But in the reflection of the motorcycle's mirror, I saw it clear as day. There was something clinging to the door.
Open the fucking door!
In that moment, my heart dropped. I was dead certain that thing outside was not Faye. It was some kind of goddamn mimic! I realized it couldn't come in on its own, so I immediately pulled out my gun.
Yoko, it's me. Whatever that thing was, it's gone now. Open up, little bro.
Philip Matt Stewart, listen to your brother this instant. I'm not fighting with you.
But then I heard my dead wife's voice.
Hey, please, I've missed you so much. Please open the door so we can talk. I want to be a family again. I want you inside of me.
My resolve shattered in an instant. I frantically called Faye to warn her, but it went straight to voicemail.
Hey, Argella just called us a voicemail, so do whatever.
Do not come to the front door. There's something out there. Do not come to the front door.
And then, the next second, I heard the real Faye coming home.
Can you hear me?
The whole neighborhood can hear you.
I told you to stay away from the door.
There's no one out here, Phil. What is that? Oh my God, Phil. Phil, open the door right now. I'm not joking. Phil, it's coming for me. Phil, help me! Help!
I was torn. If I don't help, what if she's in real danger? But if I go out there, what if it's a trap?
There's a monster outside and you couldn't lock your door?
But when Faye finally walked inside, all she found was a gun on the floor.
I'm in here, honey.
She followed the sound into the living room. The truth is, the monster was already inside the house. It got in through the window and devoured me whole. It never knew how to open the door. It was just using my voice to trick Faye into opening it herself.
Lisa secretly slipped into her neighbor's house. She took a small knife, sliced open his expensive sound system, then poured beer all over it. And the moment she finished, her gloomy mood instantly lifted. This was her revenge for all the noise he'd been causing. Just as she was feeling proud of herself, ready to celebrate, there came a thunderous knock at her door. It was the neighbor. He had come straight to confront her, even though Lisa lied and insisted it wasn't her. The neighbor wasn't buying it. He warned her that he'd make her pay for what she'd done, telling her she'd better sleep with her eyes open tonight. That threat terrified Lisa. She stayed awake the entire night, afraid he might sneak in and hurt her. An entire night passed in fear and panic. But even the next day, she still didn't dare leave her apartment. Looking out the window, she saw the neighbor carrying home a brand new speaker system. Lisa knew his revenge was coming soon. Worse yet, her beloved cat had suddenly gone missing. Lisa immediately suspected the neighbor. Then came a bill slipped under her door, the neighbor demanding she pay for his new sound system. And moments later, the loud music started blasting again. Lisa felt helpless. All she could do was endure the noise, as it tormented her relentlessly. Just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, a friend dropped by. After hearing about her situation, he went straight to confront the neighbor. But when Lisa rushed over, she found her friend beaten black and blue. To stop the assault, she handed over all her savings to the neighbor. Afterward, she demanded to know whether he had taken her cat. He refused to admit it, leaving Lisa desperate and heartbroken. Still, as she turned to leave, she muttered one last warning.
If you've hurt my cat, I will kill you.
But the neighbor didn't take her threat seriously at all. That night his music was even louder than before, a clear act of revenge. Days of sleepless nights pushed Lisa to the edge. Her mind felt like it was breaking. Then suddenly, the music stopped. A power outage. But in the silence, she heard a sharp, painful meow, a cat's cry, coming from the neighbor's apartment. The power flickered back on, and the music returned, drowning out the sound. But Lisa knew. She knew that was her cat, determined to save it. She climbed up to the attic using a ladder. Under the cover of the blasting music, she broke a hole through the wall and quietly slipped into the neighbor's home. After searching around, she finally found her cat under the bed, already tortured to death. At that moment, something inside Lisa snapped. She was done being afraid. She swore she would make that monster pay, with blood.
Because the music's too fucking loud!
I ordered a toy online, but it was mistakenly delivered to my office. My female boss, whose name is similar to mine, accidentally picked up my package. I was terrified she'd open it and think I was some kind of pervert, so I quickly explained it was for my dog. But when she caught a glimpse of the delicate collar in my hand, her expression made it clear she didn't believe it was for a pet. Since we weren't that close, she didn't press further. Maybe to make up for taking my package, she offered to help me throw away the shipping box. Watching her walk away with it, another wave of panic hit me. In the commotion, the box fell to the floor and a card slipped out. The moment she saw it, any remaining doubt vanished. She now knew for sure that collar had nothing to do with a pet. After that awkward incident, I couldn't look her in the eye. I was afraid she'd tell others my secret or label me as some kind of creep. The anxiety ate at me for days until I finally broke down and posted the whole story on social media. My post went viral almost overnight. One comment stood out. If your boss hasn't called you out yet, maybe she's into the same stuff. That hit home. It made me rethink the strange looks she'd been giving me lately. A sudden spark of hope lit up inside me. Meanwhile, my boss found herself pausing in front of an adult store a few days later. She too had been thinking about me. Encouraged by the online responses, I hesitated but finally made a move. I asked her to meet me somewhere quiet out in the countryside. I laid everything out, my kinks, my desires. I even boldly asked her to be my dominant, promising my complete submission. She was speechless. Though she politely turned me down, I could tell beneath the surface she was curious. Back home, she started searching online. The more she learned, the more interested she became. But given our professional relationship, she still didn't know how to handle the situation. Her hesitation and avoidance made me feel disgusted and rejected. One night, after a company dinner, I completely broke down, sobbing alone in the parking lot. When my boss saw me, she told me she didn't mind my kinks at all. She just hadn't known how to respond. Her understanding moved me so deeply, I didn't even wipe my tears before asking her out again, this time with hope shining in my eyes. Surprisingly, she agreed tentatively at first, gradually stepping into her new role. She did thorough research, and even drew up a contract between us. We agreed to play at least once a week. Though things were awkward in the beginning, my cooperation helped her start to enjoy our dynamic. At work, we acted like strangers, but in private, we grew closer. On her birthday, I gave her a beautiful pair of red high heels. She absolutely loved them. Just as our relationship was deepening, something unexpected happened.
The woman has a special ability. Every time she kills a fish, she can foresee someone's time of death. One day, she tells a customer, You will have a car accident at 8:34 this morning. The customer laughs it off and leaves. However, after the customer exits, he is hit by a car and dies in the accident. Exactly at the time she predicted 8:34. One day, she takes her daughter to a kindergarten anniversary celebration and suddenly notices that everyone, including her husband, has a green timer above their heads. She realizes that an explosion is about to happen during the event, putting everyone's life in danger. She urgently asks the principal to stop the performance and search the auditorium, but the principal and the parents don't believe her, even threatening to sue her for spreading false rumors. Just as she is about to give up, a parent points out that she is just a stinky fish seller and doesn't deserve to be there. Her son is also being bullied at the kindergarten. Furious, the woman decides to leave with her child. As she walks out, two other parents follow. While they are discussing the situation, the auditorium suddenly explodes. The father and daughter had just hidden in the bathtub when, in the next second, the steel door was shattered by the monster's punch. Jack activated the emergency escape pod. The monster broke through the door, attempting to stop it, but the wooden stick was severed by the pod door. It clung to the bathtub, preparing to force it open. As the hatch door was about to give way, the launch switch activated. The next moment, the escape pod roared away at high speed and eventually crashed into a distant lake. Fortunately, the pod was equipped with emergency supplies, allowing the two to survive. However, the monster was not done yet. That night, it drove a car toward Jack's shelter. Jack reacted quickly, grabbing a special fire extinguisher and instantly freezing the entire car into an ice sculpture. Jack thought the danger had passed and returned to the room, only to find the monster already inside, pointing a gun at him. He sprinted toward the final emergency device, and the iron shutter slammed shut, sealing all windows and exits. Just as the last door was about to close, the monster arrived and used its foot to block the door from closing. But the door was still opened by the monster. At the critical moment, Jack arrived and kicked the monster out with a single blow. On the other side, the monster burst into the house with a gun. Fortunately, the two reacted quickly and ran into the iron walled room in time. Through the surveillance system, they discovered that the enemy was cutting through the steel door. Jack hurriedly activated the mechanism, and the enemy instantly fell into the trap. They thought the crisis was over, but when they emerged, another monster appeared.
The girl had just bent down to pick up a dropped pencil. But little did she know, this action saved her life. As soon as she looked up, she was horrified to find that all her classmates had been cut in half from the middle. She froze in place, blood splattering across her face. Before she could even react, she felt a new danger closing in. She instantly ducked down again. The next second, an entire row of power poles was sliced clean through. That's when she realized some invisible force was cutting everything in its path. She didn't have time to think. All she could do was run for her life. She hadn't gone far when she ran into 4 other survivors. She instinctively tackled one of them to the ground, and before the other 3 could react, their bodies were cut into pieces. Then 5 cyclists passed by and they too were instantly shredded. The girl Lena was crying as she ran, that mysterious wind still chasing right behind her. She ran all the way to the riverbank, where she saw some clothes lying by the shore. She grabbed a clean set and changed into them, then headed back to school. But when she got there, she was completely stunned. All her classmates who had died were standing right there again, as if nothing had ever happened.
When a girl returns to the company at midnight to get her keys, she discovers her computer screen is continuously flashing red lights. The girl clearly remembers turning off the power when she left work. So to find out what's going on, the girl tentatively moves the mouse to check. Unexpectedly, the scene before her eyes shocks her directly. The computer display shows half of a password that hasn't been finished typing. At this moment, the girl immediately realizes that someone might be trying to steal her design plans. So to find out who the mole is causing trouble, the girl acts as if nothing happened today. The next day, the girl arrives at the company early. She takes out a disguised camera from her bag and installs it next to the computer monitor. In a blink of an eye, it's time to get off work. Just to be safe, the girl specifically copies a file to a USB drive. After shutting down the computer, the girl also adjusts the camera's position. Sure enough, as soon as they leave, a sneaky woman comes to the design department. After observing that no one is around, she comes to the girl's workstation. Using a set of passwords from who knows where, she successfully enters the main page. Then she inserts her own USB drive into the girl's computer. She copies all the files from the girl's computer to her own USB drive. But even this isn't enough for her. To teach the girl a good lesson before leaving, she also formats the computer. She thinks she's done everything flawlessly, but little does she know her actions have been completely recorded. It turns out this sinister and cunning woman is the company's sales director, while the girl is the company's jewelry designer. Just recently, the girl developed a ring called Original Intention. After seeing it, the company executives all praised it endlessly. Sure enough, when the girl visits various malls this day, she discovers that her designed ring became a hit within less than a day of being launched. Multiple stores indicate they're already sold out. The girl is very happy to hear this. Unexpectedly, the next day when she checks the sales report, she discovers that only 10 pieces of the Original Intention ring were actually sold. The girl immediately realizes there's something wrong here.
So she goes directly to the boss and tells all the leadership about yesterday's events in front of everyone, directly stating that the sales department's promotion efforts were insufficient. As soon as these words come out, the sales director can no longer sit still. She says they're just making excuses for their own shortcomings. Why should the sales department be blamed when sales are poor? She also demands that the girl provide evidence and tells the girl to handle the marketing plan herself. The girl agrees without any hesitation. At this moment, the boss also steps forward. Since they're both dissatisfied with each other's plans, they should compete according to their own ideas. 1 month deadline. Whoever has the highest profit wins. The loser will face demotion. Both parties are satisfied. To win the competition, the sales director secretly steals the girl's plan and formats her computer. Soon, their 1 month deadline arrives. As expected, the sales director successfully wins first place in this competition with the stolen design plan. Just when the sales director thinks she's achieved a great victory, unexpectedly, the girl suddenly stands up and states that her design plan was stolen by someone and demands that a surveillance video be played on the spot.
On the last night of his life, he wrote 3 letters. Then he put on the prepared hood. It said, "Don't open the bag, just telephone the boys." And just like that, he ended his life early. The death of Chief Willoughby quickly spread throughout the town. People began pointing their fingers at the stubborn mother, believing her billboards drove the chief to his death. But she could never forget that if she had never said those cruel words to her daughter, things might not have turned out this way.
I hope I get raped on the way.
Yeah, well, I hope you get raped on the way too.
On that very day, her daughter was raped and murdered under the 3 billboards. The killer quickly fled the scene. The police had no leads. The case became a cold case. Unable to accept that her daughter's case would be forgotten, she came up with a terrible plan. She spent all her savings to rent all 3 billboards near the crime scene, and she wrote 3 bold messages. When the billboard owner saw what they said, he immediately guessed who she was.
I guess you're Angela Hayes' mother.
That's right. I'm Angela Hayes' mother.
The 3 billboards read, "Raped while dying," and still no arrests. How come, Chief Willoughby? Not only that, she also invited reporters to spread the story further. Her drastic actions made the case known to everyone, but no one supported Mildred's decision. Most of the town sided with Chief Willoughby, because he had always been respected there. This made Mildred the town's public enemy. Soon they sent a priest to visit Mildred at home. He, speaking on behalf of the whole town, asked her to take the billboards down. But how could she agree? Even her son couldn't stand it anymore.
That it wasn't enough that she was raped, and it wasn't enough that she died. No, raped while dying. Thank you, Mom.
The next morning, Willoughby came to visit Mildred. He patiently explained to her the full circumstances of her daughter's death. There had been no witnesses. They had done everything they could to catch the killer, but the DNA collected did not match any suspects. But Mildred refused to listen. Seeing her so determined, the chief sighed and revealed another secret.
I'm dying.
I know it. I know it. Most everybody in town knows it.
And you still put up those billboards?
Well, they wouldn't be as effective after you croak, right?
He knew there was no point saying more, so he left, helplessly. Every day with his frail body he searched the crime scene for new evidence, but still found nothing, and beside him stood the huge red billboards. One day the ad company told Mildred that the money she paid was only a deposit. If she wanted to keep the ads up, she needed to pay rent again, otherwise they would be taken down. Just then, the secretary rushed in excitedly to say that someone had anonymously sent $5,000 to pay for Mildred's ads. Mildred finally breathed a sigh of relief, but Chief Willoughby wasn't so lucky. His condition kept getting worse. The doctors insisted on long-term hospitalization, but he didn't want to watch his life slowly slip away, so he chose to leave the hospital. He took his family for a riverside vacation. That night, he put his kids to bed and spent one last night with his wife. Then he wrote 3 letters, one to his wife, one to Dixon, and one to Mildred. After petting his beloved horse, he put on the hood and chose to leave this world. Soon after, Mildred received the letter. In it, Willoughby apologized once again for failing to catch the killer. He even tried to comfort her, saying that maybe one day the killer would reveal himself.
You gotta admit, Mildred, the billboards were a great fucking idea. They were like a chess move. And although they had absolutely nothing to do with my dying, I'm sure that everyone in town will assume that they did. Which is why, for Willoughby's counter move, I decided to pay the next month's rent on him. I thought it'd be funny, you having to defend them a whole another month after they've stuck me in the ground. I hope and I pray that you get them.
After reading the letter, Mildred felt a whirlwind of emotions. She realized the one who supported her most was the very Chief Willoughby she had been fighting. Not only did he pay for her billboards, but in a way, he wanted to catch the killer even more than she did.
The woman was just about to open the door for a man disguised as a human outside, when she accidentally kicked over a glass of water by her feet. As she bent down to pick it up, she suddenly noticed bloodstains on the man's pant seams. Then she saw several deep scratches on his neck. She instantly realized that he might have already been infected. Her teammate had once said that humans who turned into zombies would feel an extreme thirst for water, and in a dehydrated state, they would also scratch their own skin. To confirm her suspicion, she poured the rest of the water onto the floor. As expected, the man's expression turned wild with thirst. Realizing that his disguise had been exposed, the man turned away angrily and left, preventing another disaster. Then the man pointed to the bloody handprint left by the zombie on the glass door, and warned everyone not to open the door or step outside. At first, everyone seemed cautious, but after being hungry for days, a rich man could no longer hold back. He pulled out a thick stack of cash and shouted, "Whoever brings food back from the supermarket outside can have all this money." Those words instantly sparked greed among the survivors. Soon, several people volunteered to go. Since the man and the woman were temporary apartment managers, they decided to go with them to protect their safety. They entered the nearby supermarket, and after making sure there were no zombies around, they started grabbing everything they could find: any food, any drink, anything edible. But just as they were about to leave, one man pushing a shopping cart accidentally triggered an alarm. A security tag was still attached to a bottle of soda. The shrill alarm echoed through the entire store. Hearing the noise, a swarm of zombies rushed toward them. The group panicked and pushed their carts as they ran for their lives. At the last second, they managed to pull down the shutter door, locking the zombies outside. Terrified, they sprinted back to the apartment building, but when they reached the door, the woman inside refused to open it. She had seen blood on one man's forehead, and believed that he was infected. Even though the girl explained that it was only a small cut, the woman stubbornly refused to unlock the door. The zombies' growls grew louder and closer. Everyone grabbed their weapons, ready to fight. Then, just as the situation reached its breaking point, the little girl inside quietly moved the mop that was holding the door shut. The survivors rushed inside just in time, escaping death by a few seconds. The chimpanzee managed to lure the man to the side of the cage with just a provocative gesture. The next moment, the chimp suddenly grabbed the man's clothes and stared at the man with a murderous look on his face. Only when the keeper came with an electric baton did the chimp let go of the man. Unbeknownst to him, the chimp had already stolen a folding knife from the man's pocket. In the middle of the night, the chimp tied the knife to a wooden stick. Then he carefully stretched it outside the cage, and with a twist, he easily opened the door and slipped out. Then he rushed to the place where King Kong was being held and released him, and he managed to gain King Kong's trust with Caesar's intimidation. All the chimpanzees in the zoo were quickly subdued. However, looking at the stupidity of his own kind, Caesar was not satisfied, until one day, he suddenly saw the keeper unlocking the combination lock on the door, and that's when Caesar realized his chance had come. In the dead of night, he slipped out of his cage and entered the combination exactly, and he slipped out of the prison without being noticed. But Caesar wasn't trying to escape. He sneaked into his former master's house in the dark. Then he opened the fridge in the corner. Inside were several bottles of modified neurotoxin. Caesar knew that this virus could make chimpanzees evolve, so he took all the samples back to the prison without saying a word. He released the virus in one fell swoop. The next morning, the keeper started to rudely wake up all the animals. But what he didn't know was that the stars were all very quiet today, and each one's pupils turned green, and Caesar crouched at the entrance of the passage to check their pupils one by one. He wouldn't let them out until they were green. Caesar's pupils were already green. By now, they had become even greener. But the curator was puzzled by this sight. The normally noisy orangutans were discussing something, but the curator didn't take it seriously. At night, all the stars returned to their cages to rest, but the keeper, who was locking up the cage, suddenly saw Caesar standing outside alone, so he immediately asked another keeper to bring a gun. If he sees anything wrong, he shoots him. Just as he was about to use the electric baton to drive Caesar into the cage, Caesar grabbed the keeper's electric baton. The next moment, no! The chimpanzee's sudden words stunned the keepers. Even King Kong, who was in his cage, couldn't believe it. But as soon as they reacted, Caesar dragged the keeper into a cell and locked him up. Then he opened the other cages and released all the chimps. But then another keeper suddenly went through the wrong door. The chimps dragged him down and beat him up. Luckily, Caesar was able to save the keeper's life. But Caesar didn't let him go and put him in a cage. The keeper woke up just in time to see this. He was about to fight back with an electric baton when Caesar sprayed him with a high-pressure water jet. At that moment, Caesar realized that if the humans found out what was going on here, he and his kind would be used as experiments again. Caesar led the orangutans to break through the glass dome of the zoo. Soon the orangutans rushed into the parks. In an organized manner, they rescued their fellow prisoners. Then they pulled out the thick iron bars from the fences and joined Caesar's group in the evacuation. The riots soon attracted the attention of the police. The police were quickly mobilized to arrest the gorillas, but the apes had already evolved. Led by Caesar, the apes climbed high buildings to escape the police, but one of the injured orangutans fell behind and was captured alive by administrators. But just as the men grabbed the gorilla and were about to leave, A spear pierced the roof of the car. Caesar was standing on the roof with his troops. He then took one of the spears and threw it again at the man's car. The moment the spear pierced the car's bonnet, a gorilla ripped open the rear door to save the injured ape. But Caesar knew that this was no time for them to be fighting, so he hurriedly climbed onto a tram with his gorilla army and headed for the redwoods ahead. But halfway there, they were suddenly blocked by a group of police cars. They were cut off by the cavalry. Caesar ordered them to split into 3 groups. First, the one-eyed gorilla and a group of gorillas to climb up the bridge by the chain, and then to go around from above. Then the red-haired gorillas with their special forces advance from under the bridge, and the powerful gorillas, under Caesar's command, rushed to a bus in the middle of the road. They used it as a cover and kept pushing forward. When the police reacted, the 3 armies of gorillas attacked together. In a matter of moments, the human side was overwhelmed. But before the gorillas were happy, a helicopter gunship suddenly appeared on the bridge and kept firing at the bottom. Caesar grabbed a chain and threw it out. The deputy sheriff reacts by shooting at Caesar, but this angered King Kong. He pushes Caesar out of the way and jumps towards the helicopter. The helicopter lost its balance and crashed onto the bridge. Caesar rushed over to check on him, but King Kong died of his injuries. At that moment, someone in the helicopter suddenly asked Caesar for help. Caesar went to the helicopter and realized it was the man who had caused all this. Then he looked back at the one-eyed gorilla. He kicked the helicopter and it fell. Then Caesar didn't hesitate to lead his gorilla army across the bridge.
A man was released from prison. Unexpectedly, a strange woman came to pick him up. The woman asked the man to go into the container, claiming that she had prepared a big gift for him inside. As soon as he entered, the man was locked in. What caught his eye was a high explosive bomb. It turned out that the woman wanted to test the man's bomb defusing skills. The bomb in front of him was the result of their painstaking research for several months. Even an explosive ordnance disposal expert with over a decade of experience couldn't safely disarm it. However, the man only took one look at the bomb on the table and immediately knew what was going on, although there were dozens of fuses connected to the bomb. This kind of bomb couldn't be defused by cutting the wires. Cutting any wire would cause an immediate explosion. After careful observation, he finally determined that it was a remotely controlled bomb. He pulled out the SIM card from the bomb, blocking the signal for remote detonation. Then he set a timer on the phone and ran out. The man stared at the bomb. In just the blink of an eye, the high explosive bomb blew the container to smithereens.